Welcome back to Exquisite Academy. Today we'll be looking at the midpoint. We'll be talking extensively about the midpoints, giving two coordinates, how to get the midpoints. So before I continue, please like and subscribe to this YouTube channel and share and comment. They are very much acceptable. Now please, suppose we have a point x1, y1, another point x2, y2, just like our first shortest distance between 2 points. And we have the distance between them as this. Now, this is actually the midpoint of this and this. That means half of this line is what we call the midpoint. And we don't know the coordinates of this midpoint. How do we get the coordinates of this midpoint? Let's say it is A, B. We do not know the coordinates yet. So this is, we can agree that since this is the midpoint, the distance from here to here is equal to the distance from here to this point. So let me draw this down. This is x1. If I draw this down, this is point A. And if I draw this down, this is point x2. So to get A, first of all, we know that the distance from here to here is equal to the distance from here to here. You can as well stress yourself and first of all look for the distance between these 2 points and the distance between these 2 points and equate it, but that has long life. Now we know that the distance from here to here is equal to the distance from here to here. Now if from here to this point, from the origin to point A is A, and from the origin to this point is x1, the distance from x1 to A will be A minus x1. So we have A minus x1. This same distance here is equal to this distance here. So let's look for this distance. We know that from here to here is x2. Now x2 minus from this origin to point A will give you this distance here, which is this. Now if I take A to this side, I'll have 2A is equal to, if I take x1 to this side, it becomes x1 plus x2. To make A the subject formula, I'll have to divide through by A. So our A becomes x1 plus x2 all over 2. So this will be the coordinates for the x-axis. For the x-axis, this becomes the coordinate. Now if I trace this one here, I will have y1. If I trace this one here, I will have point B. If I trace this here, I will have y2. Sorry, this place is y2. Now the distance from here to here, don't mind my approximations here, is not drawn to scale. The distance from here to here is equal to the distance from here to here. Now how do we get this distance here? It is actually this length minus this length. So we can say it is b minus y1 and is equal to this distance here, which is this length minus this length, y2 minus b. So if I take this b here, it becomes 2b equals to y1 plus y2. Now if I divide both sides by 2, b is equals to y1 plus y2 all over 2. So this will be the coordinates for the y-axis, for the y coordinates, and this will be the x coordinate of the midpoint. So quickly, let's solve these 3 questions so you see the applications, how they are done. Let's solve those 3 questions. The first question says, what is the coordinates of the midpoints of A and B? They gave us the coordinates of A as -1, 7, and they gave us the coordinates of point B as 3, 7. We know that the x coordinate of the midpoint, x, y, that the x coordinate is actually x1 plus x2 all over 2. Then the y coordinate is y1 plus y2 all over 2. This is the coordinate of the midpoint. So now what is our x1? Our x1 is -7 and our x2 is 3. So the coordinates of the midpoint, x, y, is -1 plus 3 all over 2, our x1 is 7 and our y1 is 7 and our y2 is also 7. So we have 7 plus 7 all over 2. This is the coordinates. So we have m x comma y minus 1 plus 3 is 2, comma 7 plus 7 is 14 all over 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So we have x comma y 1 comma 14 divided by 2 is 7. So the coordinates of the midpoint between A and B is actually 1 comma 7. So that's for question 1. Let's move over to question 2. Question 2 is that if the coordinates of the midpoint of A, which is 3 minus 3 comma 2y, and B, which is x comma 1, is 5 comma 2, what is the value of x plus y? Note, they didn't say what is the value of x and y, or what is the value of x, or what is the value of y. What they are asking for is the sum of x and y. But before getting the sum of x and y, we have to know the value of x and we have to know the value of y. So quickly, let's do that. The coordinates of the midpoint. Now, I don't want to use x, y here because I already have that variable here as y and x. So let me just use AB here. Is the x1 plus x2, the x coordinates over 2, then the y coordinates, y1 plus y2 all over 2. Now our x1, they gave us this coordinate as 5 comma 2. They gave us this midpoint already. Now in the question, they gave us this midpoint already as 5 comma 2. Now our x1 is minus 3 plus our x2, which is x, all over 2, comma, our y1 is 2y, this, then our y2 is 1. So we have plus 1 all over 2. Now, if this is the x coordinates and a midpoint, and this is the y coordinates and the midpoint, and this is the x coordinate of the midpoint, and this is y coordinate of the midpoint, it implies that this is equivalent to this, and this is equivalent to this. So we can say 5 is equivalent to minus 3 plus x over 2, and also 2 is equivalent to 2y plus 1 over 2. If I cross multiply, I have 5 times 2, which is 10, is equals to minus 3 plus x. If I cross multiply here too, I will have 2 times 2, which is 4, equals to 2y plus 1. If I take this minus 3 to this side, it becomes positive. So I will have 10 plus 3 is equal to x, and 4 minus 1 is equals to 2y. So which means our x is 13, and our y is 3 divided by 2. Since our 2y is 3, our y will be 3 over 2. But that is not what the question asked for. The question asked for, this is equivalent to 1.5. The question asks for what is the value of x plus y. Since we know our x as 13 and our y as 1.5, our x plus y will be 13 plus 1.5, which is 14.5. If your answer is not in the option, you can convert it to improper fraction, or you leave it as mixed fraction, which is 14 over 1 over 2. So that's for question 2. Let's move over to question 3. Question 3 says, what is the distance between the midpoint of A 1, 0 and B 0, 1 and point A? Now this question is quite easy. It all depends on the approach you want to follow. Now there are two ways I can solve this. From our example, we said this: if this is the coordinate x1, y1, and this is x2, y2, now the midpoint is here. Now in this question, they said what is the distance between the midpoint of this and this, the midpoint, which is this. Let's say this is the midpoint of it, and what is the distance between that midpoint and point A. So if this place was point A, what they are actually asking for is not the distance between this and this. It's actually the distance between this midpoint and point A, if here is point A. So there are two ways. You can as well just get the coordinate of the midpoint. When you get the coordinate of the midpoint, you find this distance. Or since we know that this distance here is equivalent to this distance here, we can get the distance of these 2 points without looking for the coordinates of the midpoint. We can get the distance of these 2 points. Then if you divide it by 2, you get the distance from here to here since they are equivalent. So let's do it those 2 ways. So first of all, the first way, let's get the midpoint. The midpoint is x comma y, and it is x1, which is 1, plus y1, which is plus x2, which is 0. We have 1 plus 0 all over 2, comma our x2, our y1, which is 0, plus y2, which is 1. So we have 0 plus 1 all over 2. So this is 1 over 2, comma 1 over 2. Now, since we know the midpoint, they say what is the distance between that midpoint and point A? Don't forget in our first video that the distance between 2 points is x2 minus x1 all square plus y2 minus y1 all square. Now, this is the coordinate we work with and point A. So the distance is square root of 1 over 2 minus 1 all square plus 1 over 2 minus 0 all square. 1 over 2 minus 1 is minus 1 over 2. When you square it, you have plus 1 over 4. 1 over 2 minus 0 is 1 over 2. When you square it, you have 1 over 2. When you square it, you have 1 over 4. Then you have square roots of that. 1 over 4 plus 1 over 4 is just half, or you can say the LCM is 4, which is 1 plus 1, which is 2. 2 divided by 4 is 1 over 2. So the distance is square root of 1 over 2. Or this is the same thing as 1 over root 2. Then with your knowledge of sorts, your basic knowledge from sorts, if you rationalize this, you have times root 2 times root 2. So this becomes root 2 over 2 units. Now we got that by getting the midpoint first. But if we don't want to get the midpoint, let's go direct first. We want to try the other way. The other way, I said you will just get the distance between these 2 points, A and B. Then when you divide that by 2, you get the answer you are looking for. Now the distance between these 2 points, A and B, that distance is square root of our x1, 1 minus 0. 1 minus 0 all square plus our y1, which is 0 minus 1. So we have 0 minus 1 all square. So this is square root of 1 square, which is 1, plus minus 1 square, which is 1, which is root 2. Now this said, since we are working with the midpoint, you divide your answer by 2. So our final distance, let me call this d prime. Our final distance is root 2 over 2 units. So whichever way, you get the answer. Or you can also stress yourself, get the coordinates of the midpoint. Once you get the coordinates of the midpoint, you relate it with point B. That way you get the answer too. So that will be all for this video. In our next video, we'll talk about parallel lines. We'll talk about equations of a straight line and how they are formed. So that will be all for this video. Please do not forget, like and subscribe to Exquisite Academy. Share this video, comment, and if you have any issues in mathematics as a 100 level student, send it via the comment section and we'll do a video for that. That will be all. Thank you very much.